welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. In the year 2332, amidst the fathomless void of the Centaurus galaxy, the starship Infinity glided through a realm where starlight seemed devoured by an endless abyss. A sudden burst of blue-green radiance erupted before the ship's bow, as if the universe itself had been torn open by an unseen blade. Commander Ethan Korr stood at the helm, his piercing eyes fixed on the viewscreen, his heart ablaze with an unshakable belief humanity could confront any mystery the cosmos dared to offer. Alarms wailed, their shrill cries echoing through the bridge, yet Ethan remained steadfast, a mountain unyielding before a storm. "Systems are overloading!" Lieutenant Dren shouted, slamming his fist against the console, his face pale with panic. The screens flickered wildly, signaling energy levels beyond measurable limits. "Commander, we have to evade now!" Ethan raised a hand, his voice low but razor-sharp. "No evasion. She chose us. I'll face her." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but none dared challenge him. Ethan Korr didn't command through authority alone. He led with an unbreakable will that had carried Infinity through regions of space other ships only whispered about. From within the blue-green glow, a feminine form materialized, shimmering like a river of stars flowing through the dark. Her silver hair drifted, curling like cosmic clouds, and her eyes, deep as the night sky, locked onto Ethan, as if piercing his very soul. "What is she?" Dr. Vera, the ship's scientist, whispered, her voice trembling with awe and curiosity. Her scanners beeped incessantly, unable to parse the entity before them. Ethan didn't answer. He felt a consciousness brush against his own, not words, but an ancient sensation, both curious and urgent. The woman glided closer, her blue-green light reaching out, enveloping the ship's hull like invisible arms. The metal groaned, as if melting under a force capable of unraveling space and time. Yet, strangely, the light halted mere steps from Ethan, stopped by an unseen barrier, the unyielding fire of his spirit. "I am Ethan Korr," he declared, his voice fearless despite his racing pulse. "Who are you, and what do you want?" A voice echoed in his mind, gentle as waves lapping from the depths of the cosmos, yet powerful as a storm among the stars. "I am Lyria, the last wanderer of the Nebula Kin. Your will is a mountain I cannot climb. I need it to save my people from eternal darkness." Ethan met her gaze, her fathomless pupils holding both the life and death of countless stars. He sensed her loneliness, but also a fierce hope, like a flame that refused to die. "Humanity surrenders its will to no one," he replied, each word carved into the void. "But if you seek a partner, I'm listening." Lyria tilted her head, her light softening, as if weighing something rare, a quality she hadn't encountered in eons of wandering. The crew held their breath, awaiting her response. Dren's fist clenched, his eyes brimming with distrust, while Vera's gaze darted between her scanner and the scene, hungry to capture every moment. But Ethan stood unmoved, his stare unwavering, ready for any answer, peace or war. Before Lyria could speak, a surge of energy erupted from her, a tidal wave of light. Infinity shuddered violently, consoles sparking, and the ship lurched forward, dragged into an unseen abyss. "She's attacking us!" Dren roared, drawing his sidearm, but Ethan's raised hand stopped him, his eyes still fixed on Lyria. "This isn't an attack," he said, his voice steady. "She's losing control." Lyria recoiled, her blue-green glow flickering chaotically, like a flame caught in a gale. Her eyes flashed with panic, as if battling herself. "I didn't mean to," her voice whispered in Ethan's mind, faint but sincere. "Your will, it stirs me." Ethan gripped the console, feeling the ship quake in a warped region of space where stars twisted like torn paintings. "Control it, Lyria," he urged, his tone sharp but not hostile. "If you need me, show me you're worth trusting." Lyria nodded, her light stabilizing, though still trembling. She raised a hand, and a delicate thread of radiance reached out, steadying the space around the ship. Infinity slowed, but not in time. A blast roared from the engine bay, and the main screen blazed. Ethan's heart pounded as he saw it, a fleet of angular ships, glowing with blood-red light, bearing no human markings. "The hunters," Lyria whispered, her voice quaking with fear and despair. "They've found me." Ethan's fist tightened, his gaze locked on the screen. The red ships moved with lethal precision, like predators closing in. "Who are they?" he demanded, his voice cold as steel. Lyria turned to him, her light flickering faintly. "They hunt the Nebula Kin, draining our energy to fuel their power. I thought I'd escaped, but no one outruns them forever." Dren stepped forward, his gun still drawn. "Commander, if she led them here, we have to hand her over. We can't fight an entire fleet." Ethan spun, his eyes cutting like blades. "No one gets left behind, Dren. Not today." He glanced at Lyria, seeing not just fear in her eyes, but a spark of hope that he wouldn't turn away. "Activate defenses," he ordered, his voice thunderous. "If they want her, they'll have to go through us." The crew sprang into action, metal clanging as shields powered up. Vera rushed to her console, analyzing the Red Fleet's energy. But Ethan's focus stayed on Lyria. He sensed her power, a force that could save or destroy them, and his own will, standing at the edge of peace and war. The lead red ship fired a crimson beam, tearing the space before infinity. Ethan stood firm, his eyes blazing. "Lyria," he said, his voice low but fierce. "If you want to stand with us, show me what you fight for." Lyria nodded, her blue-green light flaring, a silent vow. But before she could act, infinity shuddered again, and the screen went black. They'd been pulled deeper into the warped space, where darkness lurked, and the hunters were only the beginning. Infinity drifted in a distorted region of space, where stars faded like embers swallowed by shadow. The screens flickered, displaying warped curves of reality, as if twisted by an unseen hand. Ethan Korr stood in the command bay, his sharp eyes scanning the crew as they scrambled to repair systems. But his mind was elsewhere, drawn to Lyria, the ethereal woman standing silently in the observation deck, her blue-green glow flickering faintly, like a candle trembling before a storm. Ethan approached, his boots ringing on the metal floor, each step a wordless declaration of resolve. Lyria turned, her fathomless eyes shimmering with an ancient sorrow, as if she carried the weight of millennia. "What did you do to our ship?" he asked, his tone firm but not accusing, seeking truth over blame. "I didn't mean to," Lyria replied, her voice echoing in his mind, gentle yet heavy with regret, like waves crashing against stone. "My power, it surged when it touched your will. I didn't expect it to be so strong." Ethan frowned, curiosity mingling with skepticism. His will? He'd led infinity through deadly voids, faced radiation storms no ship dared challenge, but that was a commander's instinct, not something extraordinary. "My will?" he asked, his voice low, eyes locked on hers. "You speak as if it's something tangible." Lyria drifted closer, her light pulsing, as if struggling to hold her form. "For billions of years, I've wandered galaxies, pierced matter, bent space," she said, her voice a timeless song. "But your will is a mountain I cannot climb, a fire I cannot quench. It's what I need to rekindle hope for my people, the Nebula Kin, once the light of the cosmos." Ethan stood still, his heart pounding at her words. He felt her sincerity, but a shadow lingered in her eyes, a secret unspoken. He wanted to press further, to understand why she'd chosen infinity, chosen him, but a piercing alarm cut through, snapping him back to reality. The main screen flared, revealing a fleet of angular ships, glowing with blood-red light, moving with terrifying speed, like blades slicing through the dark. "Who are they?" Ethan demanded, his voice cold as steel, hands gripping the console. Lyria recoiled, her light trembling, as if the darkness itself threatened her. "The hunters," she whispered, her voice breaking with fear and despair. "They hunt the Nebula Kin, draining our energy to feed their strength. I thought I'd escaped, but no one escapes them forever." Ethan turned to the crew, his eyes blazing with resolve. "If they want her, they'll have to get through us," he declared, his voice a vow. "Raise shields! Ready weapons!" Dren, nearby, clenched his fists, his eyes dark with doubt. Commander, we can't take on a whole fleet. She's dragging us to our deaths. Ethan met Dren's gaze, his stare sharp as a blade. No one gets left behind, Dren. Prepare to fight. Dren muttered but complied, rushing to his station. Dr. Vera, her face taut, typed furiously at her scanner, analyzing the Red Fleet's energy. They're unlike any tech we know, she said, her voice shaky. They're almost alive. Ethan had no time to dwell. A crimson beam shot from the lead ship, tearing the space before infinity. The ship's shield shuddered, their blue-green glow faltering. We can't hold long, Vera cried, clinging to her console. Lyria stepped forward, her light flaring, though still trembling. I can help, she said, her voice echoing in Ethan's mind, carrying a spark of resolve. Before he could respond, she raised a hand, and a blue-green burst erupted, forming an invisible shield around infinity. The hunter's red beams struck it, shattering like waves against rock, but each hit dimmed Lyria's glow, as if she paid with her existence. Lyria, stop! Ethan shouted, rushing to her side. But she didn't listen, her light pouring out, powerful yet chaotic. A red beam pierced the shield, striking the engine bay, rocking the ship violently. Lyria collapsed, her glow nearly extinguished, and Ethan caught her, feeling a strange energy surge through his hands, like electricity in his veins. His heart raced, not just from adrenaline, but from a deeper connection he couldn't name. Commander. Vera rushed over, her face ashen. She held up her scanner, eyes wide with alarm. Her energy's leaving traces in you. It's not temporary. If this continues, you could change, permanently. Ethan nodded, but his gaze stayed on Lyria. She lay in his arms, her light flickering faintly, like a star on the verge of collapse. He saw not just pain in her eyes, but a promise, a hope that he wouldn't turn away. She's sacrificing herself, he said, his voice low but fierce. We can't let her die. Dren, nearby, shook his head. Commander, she's why we're under attack. Hand her over, and we might live. Ethan stood, his eyes blazing. Lie by betraying her? That's not our way. He turned to the crew, his voice thundering. Full power to engines. Get us out of here. But as infinity surged forward, another red beam struck, shredding the shields. The screen blazed, showing the hunter's fleet tightening their trap, like predators closing in. Ethan's fist clenched, his will unshaken despite the encroaching dark. Lyria, though weak, looked up at him, her light flickering once more, a wordless whisper, we must fight, together. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos, sharp as a blade. Full speed. Dive into the nebula. Infinity trembled, engines roaring, slipping past the final red beam as cosmic dust swallowed the ship. The hunters slowed, their blood-red glow fading in the thick haze, but Ethan knew this was only a fleeting respite. Lyria lay in his arms, her light nearly gone, each pulse a plea for survival. He tightened his grip, his eyes burning. We're not done, he whispered, avowed to the darkness. Infinity hid within a dense nebula, where swirling cosmic dust obscured the star's light. The space around the ship was hazy, as if they drifted in a forgotten dream. Ethan Korr stood in the command bay, his sharp eyes scanning the screens, where the hunter's signals had briefly vanished. But his thoughts were elsewhere, pulled to the medical bay, where Lyria lay, her blue-green glow so faint it seemed a breath from fading. Ethan entered the bay, his footsteps echoing on the metal floor, each sound a reminder of the weight on his shoulders. Lyria rested on a bed, her form shimmering like a dying star, her deep eyes opening as he neared. He sat beside her, a mix of concern and an unnamed urge stirring within, to understand her, to know why the universe had set her in his path. Why did you do it? He asked, his voice low, tinged with restrained anger. You could have fled, left us behind. Why sacrifice yourself? Lyria smiled faintly, her light flickering, as if clinging to life. Because you chose to face me, not fear me. Her voice echoed in his mind, soft but heavy, like wind over a desolate plain. I owe you the truth, Ethan Korr. He leaned closer, his gaze locked on her, waiting. Lyria drew an invisible breath, her voice turning distant, recounting an ancient tale. The Nebula Kin once illuminated galaxies, guiding young civilizations. We were light, pure energy, able to pierce matter, bend space. But the hunters came, a darkness devouring light. They drained our energy, leaving my kin as hollow shells. I'm the last, wandering to find a way to save them, and I found you. Ethan's brow furrowed, his heart pounding at the weight of her words. Found me? He asked, his voice low, doubt creeping like a thin blade. What do you need from me? My will, as you call it, for what? To turn humanity into fuel for your kind? Lyria shook her head, her eyes sincere, glowing with faint hope. No, she vowed, her voice resolute. I seek alliance. Your will, the unyielding fire in your soul, can help me control my power, to stand against the hunters together. But I can't force you. You must choose, Ethan. Ethan fell silent, his gaze unwavering. He wanted to believe her, to trust that in this vast universe, two species could stand side by side. But doubt lingered, a shadow clinging to light. Lyria was powerful, but dangerous. Her strength had already dragged infinity to the brink. He opened his mouth to press further, but the medical bay door slid open, and Dren strode in, his eyes cold as ice. Commander, Dren said, his tone cutting, unyielding. Base just sent a signal. They've ordered her capture for study. Refuse, and they'll brand you a traitor. Ethan rose, facing Dren, his eyes blazing like fire. She's not a weapon, Dren, he said, each word etched into the air. She's a being, and I won't hand her over. Dren shook his head, his fists clenched, barely containing his anger. You're blind, Ethan. She led the hunters here, and now we're trapped in this nebula because of her. I'm protecting humanity, protecting us. Before Ethan could reply, Dr. Vera burst in, her face taut, clutching a flashing scanner. Commander, she said, her voice urgent, almost choked with excitement. I've detected an ancient signal in the nebula, matching Lyria's energy. It leads to ruins, possibly a Nebula Kin temple. Ethan turned to Lyria, seeing her light pulse stronger, as if the signal had stirred something within her. The temple, she whispered, her voice trembling, carrying a distant memory. It may hold the answers I seek. Ethan's fists tightened, his will flaring like a blaze. Set course, he ordered, ignoring Dren's skeptical glare and the hunter's lingering threat. If there are answers, we'll find them. Infinity glided through the nebula, its blue-green engines dim in the cosmic haze. As they neared, a colossal structure emerged, a temple shimmering with blue-green light, as if forged from stars. Its walls bore carvings, telling the Nebula Kin's story, their days lighting the galaxy, and their fall when the hunters came. Ethan led Lyria and a small team inside, the air heavy, as if time had frozen here for billions of years. Lyria stepped into the temple's heart, her light flaring, as if drawing strength from the walls. But suddenly, she turned to Ethan, her eyes blazing with a foreign glow. You are the key, she said, her voice panicked, as if controlled by something deep within. But also the danger. A blue-green surge erupted from her, a storm of power, knocking Ethan to the cold stone floor. He struggled to rise, his heart pounding, his gaze locked on Lyria. She trembled, her light chaotic, as if battling herself. No. I don't want this, she cried in his mind, her voice breaking with pain. Dren rushed forward, gun raised, his face pale. Commander, she's attacking you. I told you she's dangerous. But Ethan's hand shot up, stopping him, his eyes never leaving Lyria. She's not in control, he said, his voice low but fierce. She needs us. Vera knelt by a wall, her scanner beeping wildly. Commander, these carvings, they speak of a failed alliance. The Nebula Kin tried bonding with another species, but their will was too strong, destroying both. She looked up, her eyes worried. If we're not careful, history could repeat. Ethan stood, his eyes burning with resolve. He approached Lyria, heedless of the pulsing energy around her. Lyria, he called, his voice a promise. If you want alliance, fight whatever's controlling you. I'm here with you. Her blue-green light trembled, then softened, as if his words had reached her. But in that moment, a distant explosion shook the temple, infinity quaked, and Vera's device screen flared. The hunters had found them, and the temple was no longer a sanctuary. A crimson beam tore through the space outside, rocking the temple like it might shatter. Over the comms, Vera's voice screamed, "Commander, the engine bay is heavily damaged. We can't move!" Ethan gripped Lyria's hand, her light flickering chaotically, like a flame on the verge of extinction. The hunters fired again, then withdrew abruptly, as if biding their time. Ethan looked around, the shimmering walls now suffocating, like a tomb of light. "We're trapped," he said, his voice steady despite the odds. "But I'll find the truth, Lyria, about you, about everything." Within the Nebula Kin's temple, blue-green light shimmered from the walls like a river of stars, but the air was heavy, as if time itself pressed against Ethan Korr. He rose, knees aching from Lyria's earlier surge, his eyes fixed on her. Threads of blue-green radiance traced from his hands to his chest, curling like cosmic veins, pulsing with a power not his own yet intertwined with his heartbeat. His mind swirled, as if part of him was being drawn into a vast darkness. "What's happening to me?" he asked, his voice taut, each word a struggle to break free. Lyria, now steadied, stood before him, her blue-green glow faint, like a flame clinging to life. Her deep eyes shimmered with worry and regret. "Your will has merged with my energy." Her voice echoed in his mind, soft but laden, like a bell tolling from a forgotten shrine. "It gives me strength, but it consumes me. If we continue, you may become no longer fully human. If we stop, I'll fade, and the hunters will devour everything, you, me, and all we've dared to hope for." Ethan's fists clenched, nails biting into his palms, anchoring him to reality. He didn't fear death, he'd faced it countless times in the galaxy's deadliest voids. But losing himself, becoming something alien, was a terror he'd never known. "I need the truth," he said, his voice low, eyes locked on Lyria. "Not promises, not hope. The truth." Lyria nodded, her light softening, as if she understood the weight of his demand. She raised a hand, pointing to the temple's heart, where a massive carving glowed on the wall, etched in starlight. "Come," she whispered, her voice carrying an ancient memory. Ethan followed, each step resounding on the cold stone, a drumbeat of fate. The carving grew clearer, a tale of the Nebula Kin, their days illuminating galaxies, and an ancient alliance with another species. But the story ended in shadow. The other species was too fierce, destroying both, leaving only wreckage among the stars. Ethan stood silent, his heart pounding. He saw himself in the carving, a man at a crossroads, wielding power that could save or doom. "We're walking the same path," he said, his voice low, not a question but a cold realization. Yet his eyes burned, unwavering. "I won't give up. Not now." Lyria gazed at him, her light flickering like a vow. "Then fight with me," she said, her voice an ancient song. But before Ethan could answer, an explosion rocked the temple, the shimmering walls trembling as if ready to shatter. Alarms blared from infinity over the comms, and Dr. Vera's voice screamed, frantic. "Commander! The hunters have found us! They've brought a weapon, it's draining our energy!" Ethan spun to the crew, his eyes sharp as blades. "Back to the ship! Prepare to fight!" He grabbed Lyria's hand, pulling her along, heedless of her faint glow. They raced through glowing corridors, the walls' light singing a desperate hymn. Aboard Infinity, the main screen blazed, showing the hunters' fleet, blood-red ships, their lead vessel emitting a strange energy, like a ravenous maw aimed at Lyria. "Shields won't hold!" Vera cried, her hands flying across the console. A red beam pierced through, striking the engine bay, shaking the ship violently. Ethan stood firm, his gaze locked on the screen. "Return fire!" he ordered, his voice thunderous. But Infinity was outmatched, shields flickering, each hunter attack sapping the ship's life. In that desperate moment, Lyria grasped Ethan's hand, her light flaring despite her trembling form. "Trust me," she whispered, her voice and his mind carrying fierce hope. Ethan met her eyes, seeing not just fear but a vow: she'd fight, no matter the cost. He nodded, his will merging with her energy, like fire igniting a storm. A blue-green surge erupted, tearing through space, obliterating a hunter's ship in a blinding flash. But Lyria collapsed, her light nearly extinguished, a star falling into darkness. Ethan caught her, feeling his memories blur, the days on Earth, his crew's laughter, all fading like shadows swallowed by night. He gripped her hand, his heart pounding, not from fear but from a resolve to keep her alive. "Lyria, stay with me," he said, his voice hoarse but fierce. Suddenly, the command bay door burst open, and Dren stormed in, leading a group of crew, guns raised. "You've gone too far, Ethan," Dren said, his voice cold as the void. "She'll destroy us. I won't let that happen." Before Ethan could react, Dren ordered him and Lyria locked in an isolated chamber deep within the temple. "Base will deal with her," Dren said, turning away, though a flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. Ethan pounded the metal door, his eyes blazing. "Dren, open this now!" he roared, but only receding footsteps answered. He turned to Lyria, her light flickering like a final breath. "We'll get out," he said, his voice steady despite the weight in his chest. Vera, still in the command bay, tried reaching Ethan through the comms. "Commander, I'm working on the lock. But something's wrong. Dren's signal is distorted, like..." Her voice faltered, then she screamed. "Something's watching us from the dark." Ethan gripped Lyria's hand, feeling her blue-green energy pulse through him, potent yet perilous. He met her eyes, sensing an unspoken secret, a force greater than the hunters, lurking. "We'll face it," he said, his voice a vow. "Together." In the temple's isolated chamber, the blue-green light from the walls flickered faintly, as if the temple itself were dying. Ethan Korr stood before the metal door, fists clenched, his eyes burning with an unbreakable will. Threads of blue-green radiance traced from his hands to his chest, shimmering like rivers of stars, filling him with a cosmic power, overwhelming yet alien. Each heartbeat brought a new sensation, as if he were becoming something greater yet losing himself. "I don't want to become something I'm not," he said, his voice low, resolute, a vow echoing through the dark. Lyria leaned against the wall, her light so faint it seemed a whisper of life. She looked up, her deep eyes glowing with warmth and pain. She reached out, taking his hand, and though her glow was dim, Ethan felt a warmth spread through him, like a small flame in a tempest. "I don't want to lose you either," she whispered, her voice and his mind soft but heavy, like waves on stone. "But a greater darkness is coming, not just the hunters, but what created them." Ethan's brow furrowed, his gaze sharp, locked on her. "What?" he asked, each word a cut through the silence. Lyria drew an invisible breath, her light flickering, as if struggling to voice the truth. "The Black Star," she said, her voice breaking, carrying an ancient dread. "A formless entity, born from the darkness between stars. It consumes the energy of all life to survive, reducing them to ash. The hunters are its tools, puppets sent to harvest light for its hunger." Ethan's heart pounded, not from fear, but from a rising fury, anger at a darkness daring to threaten all he held dear. He stood, his eyes blazing like fire. "Then we'll confront it," he declared, his voice thunderous. "But not by sacrificing each other. We'll find another way." Lyria nodded, her light brightening slightly, as if fueled by his resolve. They turned to the metal door, and Ethan struck it, the sound a defiant challenge. "Dren!" he roared, his voice icy. "Open this now, or I'll tear it down!" No answer came, but Lyria raised a hand, her faint light threading into the door's seams. A hiss sounded, and the door sprang open, revealing a corridor aglow with starlight. They raced through halls carved with Nebula Kin tales, each step a testament to unyielding resolve. At the temple's main chamber, they faced Dren and a group of crew, guns raised, eyes cold. "Stop, Ethan," Dren said, his voice hard as steel. She's manipulated you. I won't let her destroy us. Ethan stepped forward, his gaze unwavering, a mountain before a storm. Dren, he said, his voice low but fierce. She's not the enemy. The enemy's out there, wanting to devour everything. Humanity is stronger because we trust, because we fight together, not turn our backs. His words echoed, striking a chord in Dren's mind. He lowered his gun, doubt flickering in his eyes, but before anyone could speak, an explosion shook the temple. Alarms blared from infinity over the comms, and Vera's voice screamed, frantic. Commander! The hunters are attacking! They've got a stronger energy field. Our shields are collapsing. Ethan turned to Lyria, his eyes blazing. We need to get to the ship. But Lyria gripped his hand, her light pulsing, as if sensing something. No, she said, her voice urgent. There's an ancient chamber here, holding primal Nebula Kin energy. It could amplify our strength, enough to repel them. She hesitated, her eyes worried. But it's dangerous. If your will isn't strong enough, it could kill us both. Ethan met her gaze, seeing not just fear but a vow. She believed in him, as he'd believed in her. I'm ready, he said, his voice firm, an unbreakable oath. They ran through the shaking halls, explosions echoing like the hunters' roars. At the ancient chamber, a massive crystal glowed with blue-green light, like the heart of a dead star. Lyria raised a hand, her light merging with the crystal, and Ethan took her hand, his will blazing like fire. A blue-green explosion engulfed the temple, powerful enough to warp space. The energy surged, shredding the hunters' fleet, scattering their red ships like leaves in a storm. But the cost was steep. Ethan collapsed, his mind plunging into darkness, as if dragged into a bottomless abyss. In that void, a voice roared, not Lyria's, but something ancient, formless, like 1,000 dead stars screaming. You are the key, it said, its voice a blade slicing his mind. Your will shall fuel my power to devour the Nebula Kin, to devour all. Ethan stood in the darkness, his eyes burning though no light existed. He felt the black star's presence, unseen but crushing, like the weight of the cosmos. A cold realization hit. Lyria had been led to infinity by the black star, used as bait to manipulate him, to turn his will into its weapon. You're wrong, Ethan said, his voice thunderous, though his mind trembled. I'm not your key. I'm the fire that'll burn you. But the darkness tightened, and Ethan felt his will waver, like a candle in a gale. Somewhere in reality, Lyria called his name, her voice faint but fierce. Ethan, come back! She cried, and he seized her voice, a lifeline pulling him from the abyss. He opened his eyes, finding himself in the ancient chamber, Lyria kneeling beside him, her light nearly gone. We pushed them back, she whispered, her voice faint with exhaustion. But Ethan looked beyond the glowing walls, sensing a greater darkness lurking. The Black Star hadn't relented, and their war had only begun. After the light's eruption in the ancient chamber, the crew hurriedly carried Ethan and Lyria from the temple, its shimmering walls fading behind like a broken dream. Infinity awaited, its hull scarred from the hunter's assault, yet standing firm, a mirror of Ethan's own resolve. He stirred mid-journey, his mind reeling with the Black Star's cold, immortal voice, but Lyria's faint glow beside him pulled him back. We must go on, she whispered, her voice trembling yet bright with hope. Ethan gripped his fists, sensing the darkness still stalking, knowing the path ahead led to the heart of light, or its abyss. Ethan Korr opened his eyes, his breath heavy, as if surfacing from an ocean of shadow. He lay in infinity's medical bay, blue-green light shimmering across his body, like cosmic veins woven into his flesh. Each heartbeat pulsed with new power, a reminder. He'd faced the Black Star and returned. Lyria stood beside him, her blue-green glow brighter, no longer faint. Her deep eyes widened, shimmering with awe and hope. You confronted the Black Star and came back. Her voice echoed in his mind, trembling like a breeze over a field of stars. Ethan sat up, feeling the blue-green threads across his chest, but his will, the unyielding fire, remained his, unshaken. It wants me, he said, his voice low, eyes sharp. It called me the key, said my will would feed it. But I saw the truth, it used you to draw me in. Lyria lowered her gaze, her light flickering, as if bearing an ancient pain. I didn't know, she whispered, her voice breaking. But I know where we can break its hold, the Nebula Kin sanctuary, the last heart of my people. Ethan's fist tightened, his eyes blazing. Then we'll go there, he said, his voice firm, an unbreakable vow. Not to flee, but to fight. Infinity surged from the nebula, engines roaring, its blue-green hull cutting through the dark. But the path to the sanctuary was treacherous. A meteor field loomed ahead, massive rocks spinning like cosmic blades. Alarms wailed as the screen flared, revealing dual threats, the hunters trailing close, their blood-red ships glinting like predators' eyes, and ahead, a human fleet led by Admiral Kalia, their cannons aimed at infinity. Ethan Korr! Kalia's voice crackled over the comms, cold as ice. You've been compromised by an alien entity. Surrender or we'll destroy you. Ethan stood in the command bay, his gaze unwavering. Kalia, he replied, his voice low but fierce. I'm not your enemy. But if you want to fight, I won't run. He ordered the crew to accelerate, plunging into the meteor field, ignoring Dren's protests. Commander, we'll be torn apart. Lyria stepped forward, her light flaring. I can help, she said, her voice in Ethan's mind carrying resolute spark. He nodded, taking her hand, his will merging with her energy, like fire guiding a storm. A blue-green burst enveloped infinity, and the ship leaped through space, weaving past massive rocks with unprecedented speed. But each jump exacted a toll. Ethan felt his memories blur, Earth's days, the wind over fields, dreams of a simple life, all slipping away, devoured by shadow. Your mind's weakening, Vera shouted, her scanner beeping wildly. If you keep connecting, you could lose everything. Ethan gripped Lyria's hand, his eyes blazing. I won't stop, he said, his voice hoarse but steady. Not when we're this close. At last, the meteor field cleared, and the Nebula Kin sanctuary emerged, a colossal structure, shimmering like a star forged from light, spinning in space like the universe's heart. Infinity landed on a glowing stone platform, and Ethan led Lyria inside, heedless of the hunters and Kalia's cannons echoing behind. The Nebula Kin Council appeared, radiant yet cold entities, their voices a passionless song. You bear humanity's will, one said, but also the Black Star's risk. You must prove yourself. Ethan stood tall, his gaze unflinching. Name it, he replied, his voice sharp as a blade. What must I do? The council pointed to the sanctuary's heart, where a vibrant blue-green energy swirled, the nebula core. Enter, they said, where pure energy will test your will. If you're not strong enough, you'll dissolve, and the Black Star will triumph. Lyria gripped his hand, her light trembling. Ethan, you don't have to, she whispered, her voice breaking with fear. But he turned to her, a faint smile on his lips, the smile of a man who'd chosen his path. I don't do this because I must, he said, his voice low but fierce. I do it because I believe, in you, in us. He stepped into the nebula core, its blue-green light swallowing him, an endless ocean. Within, darkness rose, and images of his crew appeared, Dren, Vera, even Kalia, standing before him, their voices cutting like knives. Abandon her, Ethan, Dren said, his eyes cold. She'll destroy you, destroy humanity. Vera stepped closer, her voice soft but sharp. You're losing yourself. Turn back, there's still time. Ethan stood still, his heart pounding. He saw the lie, these weren't his crew. Black Star, he roared, his voice thunderous. Think you can trick me? I know my crew, they fight, they don't surrender. His will blazed, a fire burning through the dark. He recalled Lyria, her vow, and pushed past the false images, emerging from the core. He stepped out, blue-green light blazing brighter, cloaking him like cosmic armor. Lyria rushed to him, her glow flaring, as if fueled by his victory. The council bowed, their voices tinged with respect for the first time. You've proven yourself, they said. But the black star still waits. Ethan took Lyria's hand, his eyes burning. Then we'll face it, he said, his voice resolute. Yet deep in his mind, he sensed a lurking darkness, and he knew the true challenge lay ahead. In the Nebula Kin sanctuary, blue-green light swirled from the walls like an eternal hymn, yet the air was thick, as if the universe held its breath. Ethan Korr stood before the Nebula Kin council, his piercing eyes unwavering, though the blue-green threads across his body pulsed, a reminder he stood at the edge of humanity, and something greater. The council, radiant but cold entities, regarded him with unfeeling light. You have proven your will, one said, its voice echoing like waves among the stars. But to restore the Nebula Kin, Lyria requires your entire will, leaving you a hollow shell. Ethan's fists clenched, his heart pounding, not from fear, but from a fury rising against the universe's demand. He turned to Lyria, her blue-green glow faint, like a candle before a gale. Her deep eyes shimmered with pain, as if she, too, dreaded the prophecy's truth. Before he could respond, an explosion shook the sanctuary, and Infinity's alarms blared over the comms. Dr. Vera's voice screamed, frantic. Commander! The human fleet's attacking. Admiral Kalia calls it a mission to save you from contamination. Ethan looked up, through the sanctuary's glowing dome, seeing red flashes of human cannon fire tear through space. The hunters emerged too, their blood-red ships glinting like predators' eyes, ready to devour all. Lyria grasped his hand, her light trembling, but her eyes flared with resolve. I don't want you to lose yourself. Her voice echoed in his mind, soft but fierce. But the Black Star is coming. If we don't act, both our kinds will vanish. Ethan met her gaze, memories flooding back, of why he became a commander, a belief that humanity didn't just survive but transcended, forging new paths through darkness. He looked to the star-filled sky, his will blazing like an unquenchable fire. I surrender my will to no one, he declared, each word carved into reality. But I'll use it to save us both. Lyria nodded, her light brightening, as if fueled by his words. They stood at the sanctuary's heart, hands clasped, and Ethan let his will merge with her energy, like fire guiding a storm. A blue-green surge erupted, enveloping the sanctuary, powerful enough to warp space. The light shot outward, shredding the hunter's fleet, their red ships shattering like glass. The human fleet faltered, their shields flickering before a power unseen. But then darkness descended. A colossal entity emerged, formless, like a black hole swallowing light. The Black Star. You cannot win. It roared, its voice a chorus of 1,000 dead stars. Your will is but dust before me. Ethan felt its crushing weight, as if the cosmos itself sought to break him. The sanctuary trembled, its glowing walls cracking, and the crew on Infinity shouted over the comms, warning of the ship's imminent collapse. Ethan gripped Lyria's hand, his eyes blazing. Together, he said, his voice low but fierce. They fought, his will channeling her energy, unleashing blue-green beams that sliced the Black Star's darkness. Each strike was a blow, but the Black Star stood unmoved, its shadow spreading, consuming the sanctuary's light. Ethan felt his will flicker, like a candle in a storm, yet he pressed on. In a moment of desperation, a plan sparked in his mind, bold, perilous, but their only chance. He turned to Lyria, his eyes sharp. Trust me, he whispered, and she nodded, her light pulsing like a vow. Ethan relaxed, feigning surrender, opening his mind to the Black Star. You want my will? He roared, his voice thunderous. Take it. The Black Star's darkness surged into his mind, a tidal wave engulfing all. Ethan stood in a lightless void, facing the Black Star, a faceless entity, its 1,000 voices screaming. But he felt no fear. He summoned humanity's memories, the first ships leaving Earth, victories over darkness, rising from ashes. This is our will, he said, his voice echoing, a fire burning through the void. You cannot have it. The Black Star wavered, its voice breaking, as if shaken by his defiance. In reality, Lyria sensed his plan. She cried out, her blue-green light flaring, sacrificing part of her energy to pull Ethan from the Black Star's grasp. The light enveloped him, a tether to reality, but at a cost. Lyria collapsed, her glow fading, a star on the verge of extinction. Ethan opened his eyes back in the sanctuary, Lyria kneeling beside him, weak but alive. The Black Star shrank, its darkness retreating, yet not fully vanquished. The sanctuary stood firm, its blue-green light pulsing, a reminder that the war wasn't over. Ethan lifted Lyria, his eyes burning. "You saved me," he said, his voice rough but fierce. But over the comms, Vera's voice broke through, panicked. "Commander, Kalia's fleet is still attacking. They won't stop." Ethan held Lyria's hand, his will undimmed despite his weary body. "We're not done," he said, his voice resolute. "We'll convince them, our way." The Nebula Kin sanctuary quaked, its blue-green walls flickering like a star's dying heart. Ethan Korr stood at the center, holding Lyria's hand, the blue-green light on his body shimmering, fused with his unyielding will, a fire nothing could extinguish. The Black Star, though repelled, loomed as a vast shadow, its voice rumbling, a chorus of dead stars. "You only delay fate," it said, each word a blade slicing space. But Ethan stood unshaken, his eyes blazing, as if the universe itself couldn't make him kneel. Aboard Infinity, Dr. Vera rushed to the comms, her voice urgent yet hopeful. "Admiral Kalia, please stop," she shouted, fingers flying to maintain the signal amid human cannon fire. "Commander Korr isn't compromised. He's fighting for us all." Dren stood beside her, his eyes heavy with regret. He recalled Ethan's words, about trust, about humanity's strength and unity. "Kalia," Dren said, his voice rough. "I was wrong." "Ethan's right. If we fire, we lose everything." Kalia, on her flagship, gripped the console, her cold eyes wavering. "Proof?" she demanded, her voice sharp as steel. But a blue-green surge erupted from the sanctuary, powerful enough to shake space, forcing the human fleet to pause. Vera pointed to the screen, where Ethan and Lyria appeared, their light a beacon in the dark. "That's proof," she said, her voice firm. Kalia gritted her teeth, then issued a command. "Cease fire. Hold position." In the sanctuary, Ethan felt the Black Star's pressure tighten, a darkness seeking to devour all light. Lyria stood beside him, her glow dimmed from saving him, but her eyes burned with resolve. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice in his mind soft but fierce. "We must end this. Together." Ethan nodded, his gaze locked on her. He recalled humanity's memories, rising from ruins, ships piercing the void, dreams of boundless futures. "I'm ready," he said, his voice thunderous. Their hands entwined, his will fused with her energy, like fire leading a storm. A blue-green surge blazed, brighter than ever, tearing the Black Star's darkness. The Black Star screamed, its voice shattering, like glass smashed to dust. "No! You cannot!" It roared, but Ethan and Lyria's light didn't falter. It surged, enveloping the sanctuary, spreading through space, banishing darkness like dawn breaking night. The Black Star convulsed, then shattered, leaving a radiant void, as if the universe exhaled in relief. The sanctuary glowed brighter, its walls reborn in pure light. Lyria fell into Ethan's arms, her light faint, yet she lived. He held her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You did it," he said, his voice rough, a smile breaking across his face. Lyria looked at him, her deep eyes glowing with warmth. "No, we did it," she whispered, her voice a song. The Nebula Kin Council reappeared, their light softened, tinged with reverence unseen before. "You are more than human," one said, its voice like waves among stars. "You are a bridge between light and dark, will and energy." They bowed, and Ethan felt a new duty, not a burden but an honor. He looked at his body, the blue-green threads now woven into him, yet not overpowering his will. He turned to Lyria, smiling, a smile of a man who'd found his path. "I didn't lose myself," he said, his voice low but radiant. "And you showed me what humanity can be, not just surviving, but leading." Over the comms, Vera's voice broke through, relieved. Commander, Kalia wants to negotiate. They saw everything. Ethan nodded, his eyes on Lyria. Good, he said. It's time to build, not destroy. The next day, the sanctuary became a meeting ground for humanity and the Nebula Kin. Kalia, still stern, bowed to Ethan, her eyes gleaming with respect. You proved me wrong, she said, her voice low. Humanity owes you. Ethan shook his head, his eyes burning. No, we owe each other trust, courage, a shared future. Ethan and Lyria were named ambassadors, bridges between human will and Nebula Kin energy. They stood before a stellar summit, where human ships and Nebula Kin entities shimmered together, a tapestry of peace. Lyria, weakened from battle, held Ethan's hand, her light flaring as she spoke. We lit the galaxy today, she whispered, her voice a vow. But a fragment of the black star lingers, hidden somewhere in the cosmos. Ethan turned to her, his eyes fearless. Then we'll face it, he said, his voice resolute. Together. Lyria smiled, her light merging with his, a wordless oath. As they left the summit, Ethan gazed at the stars, feeling Lyria's warmth in his soul, radiant, eternal. Humanity hadn't just survived the darkness. They'd become a guiding flame, proving that no matter how deep the shadow, will and trust would always find light. The stars gleamed, singing a new song of alliance, hope, and uncharted paths.